Good day, Warren County. To do a quote from FDR, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. This has been 6 months and counting since this pandemic took control of our lives. It's not been an easy task, and planning and implementing programs and plans at work, plus the determination and resilience of all of our Warren County residents and team players, have continuously delivered the success that we needed. Thank you for all your support as we combat the challenges each and every day. Together, we have accomplished a lot. As an economics teacher for several years, I understand the importance of supporting local business and how stability is critical for our economic survival. Over the last few years, Warren County has done an amazing job at economic development and building entrepreneurship. It's been a team effort. National, state, and local leaders have developed strategies that work, and we've leveraged resources from both the private and public sectors that have made the difference in the lives of our residents. We see it all around us. One of the key roles of the state of Tennessee is to invest in rural development. Much of our success as a state has come from the leadership that one of our guests today and his team has helped us develop. Today we have Commissioner Bob ROLFE, who is Tennessee Commissioner of ECD, Economic Community Development. A little background on him: he has a BS from the University of Alabama in Commerce and Business Administration, an EMBA from the Owen School of Management at Vanderbilt. He's been the CEO of a medical management company, helped establish a private equity company partnership in Nashville, and he was an investment banker at J.C. Bradford. He and his wife, Kathy, have 3 grown children. We welcome today Commissioner Bob ROLFE to our BLTV live stream show. Welcome, Commissioner.
Mayor Haley, thank you very much, and good morning to all. And like you said, Mayor, this is now 6 months and counting, and we're all doing our very best to adapt. I think what we are excited about, Mayor, is that our state is hopefully opening and returning to that level of prosperity that we all, I think, have become accustomed to. And so that, I think, Governor Lee deserves an enormous amount of credit for navigating what we know is this pandemic that we've come to know, knowing full well that there's no playbook that we can pull ideas and thoughts. And so we're all learning on the fly. So thank you, sir, for including me.
Thank you very much. Maybe a good introduction would be exactly what does ECD do as an agency for the state of Tennessee, and what role you play in that leadership?
So, Mayor Haley, our responsibility at ECD, we are one of 23 departments within state government. And we're fortunate in that we're one of the outward-facing departments. And our job every day is to recruit companies to come to Tennessee. So that's really job one. Part of job one includes, once we recruit a company to Tennessee, making sure that that company is successful and thriving. And then if that company that comes to Tennessee is successful and thriving when it comes to a phase 2 project or a phase 3 project, that company considers Tennessee for that expansion. So that would be what I would say is job one. And again, why is that important to the taxpayers of Tennessee? Because we are hopefully, if we're doing our job, not only recruiting great companies and great brands to Tennessee, but Mayor, hopefully we're recruiting great quality family wage jobs to Tennessee for Tennesseans. And then a second or third leg of the stool is we are responsible for the community development component. So it's economic development, but it's also community development. And as part of that responsibility, we assist communities throughout the state to improve and invest themselves, for future growth, and economic development projects.
And I know our development districts play a big role in that as well. So we've utilized all of your resources over the course of years to really pave the way for success for many things that we're doing. To quote a little something from Ronald Reagan, which he said many years ago, that entrepreneurs and small businesses are responsible for almost all the economic growth in the United States. It seems that there's been a big push from the governor and from state leaders to help grow local and small businesses, particularly in rural communities. And since Tennessee has been a leader in the global marketplace and has attracted an amazing amount of international investment to Tennessee, which has grown jobs and investments here, how do we create a balance between big business and small business in today's ever-evolving economy?
Mayor, you're right. That's fair to say that we spend a lot of our resources and energy on recruiting well-established companies. When I say well-established companies, I'm talking about companies with these global brands like Amazon and Facebook and Google from a tech perspective. And then I look at our OEM world, and I think of Volkswagen, and I think of Nissan, and I think of General Motors. And then when I think of the tier one OEM suppliers, I think of a Bridgestone and a Denso, et cetera. So those are the larger, more global companies and global brands. And you're going to say, well, Bobby, why is that important? I can tell you in the world of recruiting, to be identified as a state that has recruited global brands brings additional global brands to your state. Because a lot of companies, certainly the foreign direct investment companies, they do follow and they do like to cluster. And so we're very fortunate from that perspective to be on the radar screen for a lot of these multinational and global brands. With respect to the small businesses, that is an area through our Launch Tennessee partnership where we're able to work with startups, what I'll say very early stage companies. And so we have tools in the toolbox to help support those companies. And then if you look at the backbone of the state of Tennessee, I would say about 85% of our companies in Tennessee are defined as small businesses. And that's really a definition that we define small businesses 500 employees or fewer. And again, that is the backbone. And when you look at the companies that are growing here, a super majority of them are those small businesses. So we do try to find that and strike that appropriate balancing act.
Thank you. Of course, I know now there's a big push and tug between urban and rural economies. And even though agriculture is still number one industry in the state of Tennessee, rural initiatives are still the driving force in many counties like we are here in Warren. Are there other rural initiatives that ECD is using and utilizing and promoting right now besides the Launch Tennessee that would benefit rural communities like Warren County?
Okay, so Mayor, I think one of the drivers when it comes to rural initiatives really starts in the governor's office. And as you remember, Mayor Haley, when Governor Lee was sworn in, close to 18 months ago, his executive order number one was to assess every department across state government what we are doing for our rural communities. And so the great news is that was very easy conversation for us to talk about and provide data because we have spent a lot of time creating rural development initiatives. The two that come to mind that I think have probably had the greatest return on investment are the broadband initiative, and this is now going into year 4. And this is, again, dollars approved by the General Assembly. That is our funding partner, state government. And so they have continued to allow us to create grant dollars that are matching grant dollars for our rural communities with respect to the expansion of broadband. And as we all know, and I think with COVID, we know even more importantly that broadband internet connectivity is the key to the future when it comes to educating the students of the future, when it comes to communicating, and of course at the end of the day, every business has a technology strategy. So with respect to that program, we can say that that's been very successful. Another initiative that I think has been very successful is our site development grant program. And so the site development grant program is, again, focused on, for the most part, rural communities. And so I want you to think of the assets that are owned or controlled by the local industrial development board and or the local communities where they may actually own an industrial park or have an investment. And so what we try to do is take those grant dollars, matching dollars, and invest in those local economic development programs. And it could be everything from the local industrial park needs additional water or an expansion of the sewer system, or they need new roads in, whatever. So we've got a second program that we think has been enormously successful. To date, if we track to see what those developments, it's been about 100 different sites that we provided these grants, totaling about $34 million of Tennessee taxpayer money. But I can just simply say that those are two programs that have been very successful. In addition, though, we do have some other programs that are related to CDBG or Tennessee Downtown or some small tourism grant programs. But again, staying at 30,000 feet, that's where we've seen the greatest impact as far as partnering with our rural communities.
Well, Warren County has surely benefited from several of those programs, and since we're now developing a 200-acre site in Morrison, Tennessee, very close to our current industrial park, we will be using those infrastructure and rail spur and road access grants to help develop that site so we can build some more jobs and some more prosperity for our rural community. So we want to thank you for your efforts in that, and particularly the governor for his investment in our community. So another question is, technology is always evolving. And since Tennessee is the #1 automotive state in production, electric cars and changing transportation needs are really the future. And we've got to really be prepared for that. So how do you think that's going to affect the overall auto industry in Tennessee? And how can a rural community who has tier 2 and 3 suppliers really prepare for that changing technology and adapt our workforce in order to accommodate those changes?
Well, all right, another excellent question, Mayor. I want to come back to workforce, but let me just share with you. Probably initiative number one, I know it is, from the governor's office, has been, if you look at Tennessee's economy, you mentioned the largest GDP driver is agriculture. The second largest GDP driver in our state is tourism and hospitality. And then the third largest is advanced manufacturing. And when you drill down through advanced manufacturing and you identify what's the need, that industry code, it's automotive. And so today, as you know, we have about 900 Tennessee companies that are part of the automotive ecosystem, whether it's the three original, the OEMs, or it's the suppliers, tier 1s, tier 2s that you were speaking of. And so I can say without a doubt that because we have this great ecosystem and the world is quickly transitioning away from the combustion engine, we're going to do everything to protect what I'll call, our franchise value with respect to the electric vehicle. But let me just start with and share with you where we've been successful. And it all started about 18 months ago. And that first great announcement was that Volkswagen in Chattanooga has made the decision to invest about $800 million and build a brand new electric vehicle plant right there in their park in Chattanooga. And of course, why is that interesting and important? Because the supplier network for a car, an electric vehicle, the supplier parts look very different than what a combustion engine automobile or SUV or truck would look like. So if we can win at the OEM level, we're going to win with the supplier network that's going to wrap around and support those OEMs. And then right after that announcement, General Motors made the decision that they were going to invest more money into the GM plant in Spring Hill. While there were no net new jobs created, Mary Barrett, the CEO of General Motors, did come to Spring Hill and make that announcement back in 19. And of course, what General Motors has made the decision to do when it comes to electric vehicles is they're going to now lead with their Cadillac product. So that's going to be where they're going to spend their resources. And of course, we assemble a couple of Cadillacs down in Spring Hill. So great news there. Then Nissan, of course, is captures the lead, which is their electric vehicle strategy today. So that's all to say, we in Tennessee want to continue to be successful, knowing that the electric vehicle, believe it or not, is here. Now, why is it here now? Why wasn't it here 2 or 3 years ago? And that's simply that the technology around the battery, the electric vehicle battery, is what has changed. And what I mean by that is the technology today now allows an electric vehicle to go a couple of 100 miles without recharging. And more importantly, when it's time to recharge those lithium batteries, that the charging time is reduced from 8 hours to like 20 minutes. So with that kind of technology advancement, that's going to drive this transition. At the end of the day, though, the challenge with the electric vehicle and the challenge with that new world is we in Tennessee have to be prepared to deliver a workforce, because the old days of assembling automobiles, that certainly, while that's not going to go away anytime soon, the new world is going to be here before we know it, and we've got to invest in workforce development, because the jobs of the future are going to look different than the jobs of yesterday, again, when it comes to advanced manufacturing. What I mean by that is the jobs of the future, we'll probably see fewer jobs, greater CapEx, but also knowing that the world today is built around robotics and built around technology. And when those intersect, you get great automation and you get hopefully a better outcome. And what I mean by that is these robotic welding machines today, they bat 1,000%. Not that the human welding teams don't do a great job, but they work nights, weekends, and holidays, and are able to operate in a COVID-19 pandemic environment. So that's all to say. The conversation today, it's moved away from, well, incentives are important, Mayor. It's also about being able to demonstrate to a company that local community has a great workforce, the right numbers and the right quality and the right skill set.
And Commissioner McCord was on a couple of weeks ago discussing these very things. And I'm glad you mentioned robotics. Warren County has excelled in robotics and mechatronics. It's been a game changer for us as a rural community, and we've become really the leader in those initiatives with the help of grants from the governor and from the state of Tennessee. We're also looking to expand those programs. We've kind of outgrown our facilities. And Dr. Torrance from Motlow and I have had many conversations about artificial intelligence and agri-technology initiatives. Is there anything ECD can do in order to assist those efforts or help fund that expansion and help build some of those workforce initiatives?
So at the end of the day, it's about making sure that the local TCATs, and we've renewed, I doubled down in our partnership with our TCATs to make sure that we work in tandem. Because again, when it comes to the recruiting part of this equation, it is paramount that we convince a company that if they come to your community, that your community, A, is going to be there welcoming and putting its best foot forward, and B, working with the local TCAT and being nimble and flexible and agile enough that if a company shows up and says, we need to train X number of mechatronic specialists, we need to train Y number of robotic specialists, that we work with the local community, we work with that TCAT. At the same time, the TCAT group, they have their own infrastructure, and so it's more of a partnership. We're not telling TCATs what to do at all, so please don't, that's not a takeaway here. It's more of a collaborative partnership. And so what's interesting, Mayor, is we get this question all the time from some of our rural communities. What can we do to up our game to bring companies to our community? And the short answer is it all starts with the local leadership. And I'm talking about the mayors, I'm talking about their councils, I'm talking about the industrial authorities, I'm talking about their chambers of commerce. And so how You mentioned earlier something that I want to just close the loop on, and that's that your community is invested in an industrial park. Well, why is that important? Why should you guys look at community resources to do that? At the end of the day, when a company is ready to stand up a site, it's about how many available sites are shovel ready, and do we have the right community, and do we have the right workforce? So we're all connected in a very close way. So that's probably a little more than you wanted to hear, but again, education and workforce development is obviously paramount to the success of the future.
It's exactly what I wanted to hear. We did land a $1 million GIVES grant to do a partnership between our TCAT and our local high school, and so that's evolving as we speak. We're expanding programs at TCAT to do workforce development to help attract those industries. So we've come a long way in our strategies, and it's paid off for us. Another question as we start to wind down a little bit, this pandemic has kind of made us rethink the way that we all do business. Not only the way government does business, but also how industry does business. And you alluded to it a little bit before in conversation about robotics and mechatronics and doing more technology-based work within industry. And so even retail is rethinking the way they do. So what do you kind of see next as far as, business retooling, regrooming, rethinking the way that they operate, even from heavy industry and manufacturing down to the service industry?
All right, so Mayor, what the buzzword here in Nashville is reimagine, and I'm sure that was identified and developed by some consultants that are doing just that, and that's helping municipalities, counties, and our state prepare for the future, because this pandemic, we hope we're on the backside of it. At the same time, it really is changing how we transact business and how we shop and how we consume and how we spend our extra resource dollars. I will not try to touch on that. I will stay with economic development, specifically manufacturing, and can just simply say that while we've had the pause button, and I can think of 5 or 6 multinational projects where Tennessee and our local communities were in the finals. Well, that pause button with COVID remains paused today, and that's simply because when you're going to make an enormous investment, and you're in that C-suite, you're going to want to go into that community, and you're going to talk to the local leadership, and you're going to want to meet the mayor, and you're going to look at the quality of life, and you're going to look at all the assets that make that community great, and then you make a decision. Well, right now with our borders closed and a third of our projects foreign direct investment related, nobody can get into Tennessee or into the U.S., and unfortunately we cannot get out of the U.S. But so you know that we're not just sitting on our hands. We started virtual tours. I mean, we've used these Zoom platforms until I think we've kind of run out of energy there. The great news is that at ECD we still have FBI offices representing 13 countries. So we've got in-country professionals who work for ECD, 3 in Asia. So we have an office in China, an office in South Korea, and an office in Japan. And the balance of the offices are in Europe. And so their responsibility while we're remote is to tell the Tennessee story on the ground in those countries, in hopes that when these borders open up again, we'll be on the first plane to meet them, or they'll be on the first plane to meet us here in Tennessee. So we are having to think of what life looks like from a recruiting perspective. It's going to look and feel a little bit different. And then, of course, when the world does return to what we'll call normal, I think this remote working is going to be something that's going to be a real conversation. Governor Lee, I think of the 40,000 employees in the state of Tennessee, Mayor, about 25,000 are AWS right now, which is the basically work from home buzzword. And we're at ECD anxious to get everybody back around the table because there's something about human collaboration in person that I think trumps the video and the Zoom and all the other forms of communication that are electronic.
And I agree totally. What do you think is next for ECD? Where do you see in the next 6 months to a year the state of Tennessee and what ECD has got on the drawing board and planning stages?
Well, all right, so far this year, about 55 projects have been landed, where ECD has recruited 55 different company projects. That's about 10,000 job commitments and then about $3 billion of private capital investment. So if you said, Bobby, what does the scorecard and the report card look like year to date? I just shared that with you. The question is, how soon can we reopen, and I'm talking about our country borders, because like I said, there are some really fabulous projects that were put on hold. So we're going to keep our eyes open. We've tried to, so we're going to try to get out and see these potential customers. And so that's really job one for us. With respect to the companies that are in country, the great news is that those companies are continuing to transact businesses. They've restarted their operations. I think the other piece to this that we're going to see is the narrative about reshoring of jobs back to the U.S. and whether it's advanced manufacturing or biopharma or whatever industry. I think we're going to see some of those opportunities. So that's all to say. We are very bullish. The General Assembly did reduce our spending, and that's across state government, because while our state lives with personal income, we have no personal income tax. As you know, we have a consumption tax called a sales tax. So we've all tightened our belt. So that'll be part of the narrative going forward. But that's all to say, we remain very optimistic. I do believe, like most all, that this a vaccine, whenever it's readily available, will be a very significant help. And it's not just for ECD, but when I think of tourism and hospitality and all of those great creative assets that are part of our second largest GDP driver, that will help us as well. Now you're going to say, well, how does that help your community? Well, when you have tourism and you've got people coming into our state, they spend their dollars all over the state, whether they're filling up the car on the interstate or whether they're having lunch in the local communities, or those communities offer some very rich tourism assets. That all hopefully will open up in the next, we'll call it 6 to 8 months. So I wish I had the crystal ball, Mayor, but I can tell you from talking to the medical professionals, truly it is about a vaccine.
And thank you for that answer too. So that just confirms everything that we need to be confirming, and that's to be optimistic and hope that the reopening comes soon and that the rebound is quicker than we anticipated. But like you said, we don't have a crystal ball. We kind of have to take every day under consideration and plan forward. I know a lot of rural communities, even a lot of urban areas, are always asking what can ECD do for us? As a community leader, I want to reach out to you and ask, what can Warren County do to help ECD? What can we do to assist that department in one of the greatest states, I think, and one of the future economic powerhouse states? What can we do locally as leaders and as a community to assist the efforts of ECD?
Okay, Mayor, so thank you for that question, and you're right. You've asked it, it shaped it the right. I start with having a pro-business minded community that has assets that are available. As I mentioned to you, having shovel-ready industrial sites, to me, is the most important thing a local community can do. And then, now, at the same time, if you have a beautiful site that's an hour from the interstate, and that community may have 100 PhDs, the problem with that scenario is that the number 3 cost for these manufacturing companies is transportation of raw materials in and transportation cost of trucking the finished goods out. And so that doesn't hold for all communities, but where you're located with your companies that are headquartered there or have an enormous presence, with your school systems and just that quality of life, I think you're set up for success, sir. And again, what I love is the collaborative effort that you guys and those initiatives with respect to working on a educated workforce or developing a workforce of the future. So working on workforce development, having shovel-ready sites, and again, just being community-minded. And when I say that to you, I really haven't talked about incentives, but I can tell you this. Obviously, we're a big believer in incentives, and I know there's a whole counter-argument. Why do these trillion-dollar companies need incentives? I can just simply say that when I first joined ECD, the state of Florida defunded their economic development department. And let me tell you what happened. They were defunded for 1 year, and they realized these companies were not even going to consider that state. Well, the economic incentives come from the state, and also the local economic incentives are very, very important. And while you don't have to certainly give away the store, it's really about just being supportive of that company that's considering your community. So, and I'm not going to get into fiscal policy and certainly tell you how to run the railroad, but you did ask me what can you guys do, and so those are a couple of 30,000 foot ideas that I don't think are terribly special, but it just gives you guys, I think, sets you up for success. Because the other thing I want you to know, Mayor, and I know you know this, we at ECD do not traffic in where companies locate in Tennessee. Our job is to give a prospective company an inventory of all the assets across the state. And then it's up to the company and or their site consultants to identify where they want to consider locating. And so, again, we are a clearinghouse. We help with permit. We think of our group as a one-stop shop for these companies. Meaning when they come to look at Tennessee, we give them all the data. We talk about permitting. We talk about supply chain. We talk about the infrastructure assets that are part of. So we identify what they're looking for, and then we show them or provide them that information. And like I said, in your community, you check really all those boxes in Warren County. So I've got to think you are well on your way to success, sir.
And ECD in the state of Tennessee has been a big part of that. But, we like having this team kind of strategy approach. We like collaborative projects. We like to cooperate. And to me, that's how you keep the line of communication open between those resources are available and the leadership that steps up and does what needs to be done. I've asked a lot of questions of you. Have you got any questions you need to ask of me today before we leave?
I would just say, Mayor, I know from my tenure here, because I met you early on, and you have been a great partner, and I will continue to be a great partner. And what I love is when we offer these programs, you and your teams have been interested in applying for the various grants. And so I can just tell you from where we are, and also the fortunes of having where you're located, be in great proximity to some of the great infrastructure of rail and obviously the interstate system. So, Mayor, I wish I could come up with something for you, sir, but I can just say thank you very much for a great partnership.
And thank you very much for that return partnership, because we're all in this together, and we all realize that. And we can't just think so specific to one community. It's regionalism. It's thinking how the state benefits collectively when we do this approach for outside investment and also internal entrepreneurship building. So we want to thank you for your service. And maybe one day, I kind of miss our one-on-one and in-person conversations and meetings and conferences, but we will continue to move the great state of Tennessee forward, even during these uncertain times. So thank you for joining me today. The governor's supposed to be on next week, so we'll have some tough questions for him too.
He'll be a much better interview, I promise you.
Well, thank you very much, and your team. Sammy and Alan and the whole team have just been so gracious to providing us information that was necessary, but for your leadership as well, and of course the governors, and then all the departments within the state of Tennessee that's worked so well in order to promote what we're doing here in Warren County. So thank you very much. You take care and you be safe.
Thank you. Many thanks, sir. Sure.
So today we have several other guests that we're going to have some updates from. So I want to welcome Sarah Cantrell, the acting president of the Chamber of Commerce, to give some updates from their perspective.
Thank you, Executive Haley. Good morning. I'm Sarah Cantrell with the McMinnville-Warren County Chamber of Commerce. Earlier this summer, Governor Bill Lee and the Financial Stimulus Accountability Group directed the Tennessee Department of Revenue to issue business relief payments through the Tennessee Business Relief Program to small businesses for costs incurred as a result of mandatory business closures. This initiative was created to provide relief payments to businesses that had to temporarily close or suffered a substantial reduction in taxable sales due to COVID-19. An expansion to the Tennessee Business Relief Program was announced on August 13th. The expanded program includes a number of additional eligible business types. In total, more than 40,000 small business owners across 60 business types are eligible for the program. If eligible, the deadline to certify for a relief payment is September 25th, 2020. The state asks eligible businesses to certify their business information on its TNTAP website, and that is tntap.tn.gov/eservices. Once a business completes its certification and the department verifies eligibility, the department will issue a relief payment. These payments range from $2,500 to $30,000, depending on the amount of the business's gross sales. For questions, please call the Tennessee Department of Revenue Taxpayer Services Division at 615-253-0600 or email them at revenue.support@tn.gov. More details can be found at tn.gov/revenue. Of course, the Chamber of Commerce is here to help any questions any local businesses may have about the websites or contact information just mentioned. Feel free to call us at 473-6611. Also, thanks to the Rural Development Office of the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development, the Chamber has just received free touchless thermometers to distribute to local businesses. We have a limited number of these infrared thermometers available, so if your business is in need of one, we ask that you contact the Chamber of Commerce to reserve yours as soon as possible. Again, our number is 473-6611. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Warren County. I'm Dale Humphrey, the CEO of St. Thomas River Park Hospital. From a state's perspective, Tennessee has 174,274 cases, but 156,769 have recovered. We have had over 2,000 deaths at a 1.2% death rate, which is less than half of the national death rate, which is 2.95%. As a state, we have performed almost 2.5 million tests, and Tennessee in the past 14 days has had a 13% decrease in positive cases, thankfully. Warren County stands at 965 cases, 851 recoveries, and 8 deaths, which is a 0.8% death rate. Warren County has had over 12,600 tests performed, and as a county, excuse me, We have also been trending down for the past 14 days, which I believe is a direct result of our county's mask mandate. Within St. Thomas River Park Hospital, we continue to treat positive COVID-19 patients in our emergency department, hospital, ICU, and clinics. And just 2 weeks ago, we had double-digit numbers within our hospital. Luckily, we only have one positive patient currently admitted on our COVID unit in the hospital. We're continuing to limit visitors in our ICU, behavioral health, rehab unit, and emergency department to only those absolutely necessary. And in addition, we're still requiring face masks to be worn by all patients, visitors, associates, and physicians. We will provide you with a healthcare grade face mask if you need one to enter the facility. However, as our numbers continue to go down, we will revise our visitation policy accordingly, and we'll let you know as well. We have shown that face masks are extremely effective at preventing the spread of the virus when worn properly and doing the social distancing and hand hygiene. And these practices are having a big impact in other parts of the world on decreasing influenza cases for those countries who are well into their flu season. Today, I just want to thank the staff of caregivers and support staff at St. Thomas River Park Hospital for their tireless efforts during this ongoing pandemic. They continue to wear a mask without complaining for 8 to 12-hour shifts while continuing to take care of our community and keep everyone safe. And finally, our thoughts and prayers go out to those families in our county impacted by the senseless evil and violence that occurred on Sunday with the carjacking and murders. We pray especially for God to comfort you in the days to come, and God bless Warren County. Thank you.
Good morning, Grant Swallows. I'm the Director of Schools. I appreciate those heartfelt condolences to the Stevens family. I want to add mine. Stevens family are a major part of our school system, and so I just ask that you remember them in your thoughts and prayers. I also ask that if you are willing and able, that there's been a fund set up at First National Bank of Middle Tennessee here in McMinnville in the name of Eileen Stevens, and if you are able financially to contribute to that, then we would be thankful. And just again, please remember them in your thoughts and prayers in the days going forward. I do want to update you on our numbers related to COVID-19 in the Warren County school system. As of yesterday, we have 23 students in isolation and 96 in quarantine, and I want to say those are relatively low numbers when you have 6,200 students and more than that in the faculty and staff and all those that are in our school system. I believe that's a direct reflection of our approach, and more importantly, a direct reflection of how our students have responded to the things that we've asked them to do. So I want to thank them publicly. I want to thank our families for supporting them, and I appreciate the momentum that we've built. Now, with that being said, we have built positive momentum, and we cannot let our guard down. We have to continue to be diligent in this process. Please understand that the Tennessee Department of Health has mandated that any person that is within 6 feet of a positive case for more than 15 minutes is required to be quarantined for at least 14 days. That is not a school system decision. That is a Tennessee Department of Health decision, and we honor that because they are doing good work around that. But it also creates challenges for us in the school system, because the more people you have in an enclosed setting, the more opportunity you have for quarantine. So I want to reiterate that our goal has always been for students to return to school 5 days a week in a traditional environment. That's what we're working towards. That's what we're working for. But we have to continue to do the things that we've been asking you to do. Be distanced, wear your mask, and practice healthy habits so that we can return to a traditional school environment as soon as we possibly can. We will be talking about what will happen in the school system after fall break at our next school board meeting. And so we're taking in a lot of different perspectives and collecting a lot of data as we make that decision. And again, I'll just ask for your prayers and thoughts as we make those decisions for the betterment of all of our students in Warren County. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your diligence to our school system in Warren County. Thank you.
I want to thank each and every one of you for your support and cooperation during this crisis. The leadership of those who spoke today has been a team effort, and it's been amazing throughout this whole ordeal. The county appreciates all you do to protect the safety and security of our blessed community and every resident who lives here. For a few county updates, my emergency order still is in place. We'll continue to do our due diligence as we move forward. We've made some great progress in combating this disease since our plans have been enacted. With Labor Day and a super spreader event coming up in the next few days, we hope to continue what we're doing. So the face mandate requirements will remain through this week and perhaps through the end of the month as we analyze data and get input from our medical experts on a weekly basis. We urge each and every one of you to use a little common sense and please respect those around you. Our number one priority is to protect lives, whether it's a hurricane or a flood or a health crisis or a wildfire. The safety and security of every individual, not only in this country and state, but all 45,000 residents is important not only to me, but every single one of you. One death under any circumstance is one death too many. So we must all do our part. Our guidelines are still in place. Please wear a mask when it's, important, at ball games, indoor situations, larger events. Practice a good personal hygiene. As I always say, keep it clean. Social distance as much as possible. If you do not feel comfortable standing next to someone in line, step aside. Let them go ahead of you. Keep your mask on, social distance. And please regard the rights of others. Many folks do have serious health conditions and issues, and it's critical for them to observe all of these guidelines in order to protect themselves. We don't know what's next. We never do. We do know, however, that the flu season is coming up, so we urge each and every person to get that flu shot and continue to wear your masks. The vaccine looks promising. New treatments have improved survival of those people diagnosed with COVID. And most people are asymptomatic. That helps go a long way in our community and across the nation and across the globe. Our local economy is relatively strong. Even with sales tax collections up and people returning to work, we can't let our guard down. We still have some serious challenges ahead. We have a higher than average unemployment rate with no future unemployment payments guaranteed. The CARES Act money is slowly coming in, but it's also slowly going away, and PPE funding will be curtailed soon by federal government. Parents are still faced with a lot of balancing acts between work and school and daycare and instruction from home. There's a growing number of homeless and hungry residents across our county. We have one of the highest poverty rates in the region. So we have many things to consider and many obstacles to face. We are a remarkable community. We already know that. That team spirit of survival will carry us through this. All of our support agencies and organizations have done an amazing job across not only the years when we had no pandemic, but particularly in this last 6 months. And I'm convinced that we'll remain focused on the needs of our community and rise up to meet every obligation that we have in Warren County. Why? Because I know in my heart, and you do as well, that's who we are. That's what defines us. That's what Warren County stands for. Always has and always will. I'm an optimist and I'm a cheerleader for progress. And confidence goes a long way in uniting a community and carrying us forward. It's the progress that we not only want, but we need. Together we're going to rebound. We're going to come back stronger than ever. And all of us will play a pivotal role in that comeback strategy. We all have personal commitments and obligations if we want to keep our kids in school, have our businesses remain open, and protect our front line of defense workers and our healthcare providers as this pandemic continues to plague our nation. We're not immune to anything anymore. We realize that. But keeping our guard up and being safe and secure by everybody cooperating and supporting our efforts will take us to the end of this and carry us forward. We've done it before and we will do it again. Our county operations, once again, will continue under the current plan at least to the end of this month. The Tuesday, Thursday, open to the public schedules. Call the offices. If you have questions about county operations, call that individual department or call my office at 473-2505. We're going to wait to see what the governor's next orders at the end of the month or carrying us on to October will do for county operations. He will join us next week in the BLTV broadcast. So once again, thank you for your support, and call my office if you have any concerns that you wish to share from me. And to share what others have said today, our community is not immune to tragedy. So a week ago, we had a plane crash and 3 guardsmen lost their lives. So we comfort and console those families. This week we've had kidnapping, carjacking, and a senseless murder that's rocked our community to its core. So our prayers and our thoughts go out to the Stevens family and all the friends and all of those individuals that have been affected by this senseless crime. So we will lift them up with our prayers and support. As Director Swallow said, there's a GoFundMe account to help Eileen and her unborn child as we struggle through this tragedy as a community. We will be there for them, just as we've done in the past for similar tragedies. So thank you, Warren County, for who you are, what you have been, and what we'll continue to do. I want to leave you with a quote from FDR. The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Let us move forward with strength and active faith. And as always, together we are Warren strong. Thank you.